Hey folks, Ray at DCRainmaker.com here, and today we've got your in-depth review via 16 things to know about the new Fenix 6 series. Now series encapsulates a lot of stuff because there's a lot of units in there, like 20-something units across the entire series, which is sort of crazy. We'll get to that in just a second. Now when putting these watches through their paces here in the French Alps and actually the Swiss Alps as well, just over there and over there, all the Alps, I've been through all of them, and going ahead and testing them out and trying to dig into some of these new features here. And so I've got a pretty good idea on what's working fairly well and what's maybe not working so well. And so we're going to go through all that stuff, but mostly I'm going to focus on the new stuff in this video. So things that are totally new to the Fenix line, to the Garmin Forerunner line, to the Mark line, to all the lines, basically new stuff. At the very end though, I'll encapsulate a bunch of new stuff that's, yes, new to the Fenix 6, but was introduced on the Forerunner 945 of the Mark series this past spring. So stay tuned for that. The first like 15 or so items are basically stuff that's brand new that you probably haven't seen before. Oh, and then just to state the obvious, this video is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. It's just me doing my thing. Also, if you want to check out my full in-depth review down the description there, that's where I've got a lot more of the accuracy testing, like elevation and GPS and heart rate, all that stuff that is kind of boring to watch in a video, but is detailed super deep down in that video there across a whole bunch of sports and days and weeks, and it's all there, so go check this out. First though, number one on the list is we got to figure out this whole like listing of units, because there's a lot of them here. I'm going to try to explain it all. They start off at $599 and they go all the way up to $1,150, pretty expensive. And the way to think about it is basically Garmin's broken the Fenix line into kind of two pieces. There's the base piece and there's the pro piece. The base piece takes out the maps, takes out the music, and takes out the Wi-Fi, so it kind of makes it like a older Fenix, if you will, but adds in and keeps all of the physio stuff that we'll talk about a little later on. So all the advanced metrics, all that kind of stuff is still there. Versus the higher end ones, and you can see all the prices on the screen right there. The higher end ones keep the maps, keep the Wi-Fi, keep the music that you saw in the Fenix 5 Plus series, and then eventually go all the way up to the Fenix 6X Solar, which introduces solar, which again, we'll talk about in a bit. Now keep in mind though, with that lack of maps, there are other features that kind of depend on that fall away. For example, there's no ClimbPro anymore on the unit itself. There's no popularity routing on the unit itself. All the stuff that you kind of depend on the underlying top-level maps data is gone. So try to note that down at the bottom of the video there when something is not on the base unit, but for the most part, unless I say something, everything you see here is on the base unit. So that gets us number 2 on the list, which is solar, and it's probably the one that everyone's gonna be talking about, despite the fact that it's really only available from $1,000 up. It's introduced on the Fenix 6X. Now keep in mind, in the past, the X series watches where Garmin have introduced a bunch of new technologies. So if you go back to the Fenix 5X series, that's where you had maps, but the rest of the series did not. If you go back to the Fenix 5X Plus, that's where they introduced pulse ox, whereas the rest of the series did not. And if you go now to the Fenix 6X, and I'm probably going to screw up these names at some point, this is where they're introducing solar. Now if you look just on the inside of the watch, just inside the bezel itself, you'll see there's a thin strip. It's 1 millimeter all the way around, and that is 100% solar panel, meaning it's getting 100% of the light from the sun out here into that little solar panel there that is 1 millimeter thick. Versus the rest of the display actually has solar under it as well, but only at 10% efficiency. So in that case, only 10% of the sun is making it into that solar panel under the rest of the display. The entire display, including that 1 millimeter piece there, is underneath Gorilla Glass. So you're not gonna like scratch the solar panel off. Whatever you do scratch-wise to the entire display is gonna happen to the entire display. It's got Gorilla Glass covering the entire thing. Now the way Garmin sees this is a way to go ahead and top up your watch. And so it's not designed to power your watch indefinitely forever. It's not forever power, but it is pretty close in some scenarios. So if you go ahead and just turn off GPS tracking and just use it like, say you're out working or something like that, maybe you have a job that's outdoors and you just want to use it in regular mode, you'll come pretty darn close on a sunny day to just keeping things neutral across the board. You might slowly dip down depending on how many notifications you have and stuff like that, but more or less pretty neutral. Versus if you're out hiking and running like I am today out here, even though it's super sunny, you're not going to get like dramatic additions of battery life to this. You're going to get a handful of hours. I'll put that number exactly right now on the screen there. So you can see on the watch exactly the solar intensity in real time, and it's pretty impressive. It's literally real time. If I go out of the trees, it takes about 2 seconds or so to show and reflect that on the screen itself. And you see there's 2 different ways to look at it. One is that little sundial right there. That is showing kind of the full intensity. And so if it's at like 0 or 1 or 2 bars, it's probably overcast, fairly overcast in fact, versus if it's all the way filled up, it's sunny. And right now I've got mine all the way filled up here in the sun. Though when I go like this and kind of take it out of the sun because the sun is up there, I'm down at like 1 to 2 bars. And what I've generally seen here is that when it's cloudy out, I'm between like, let's just call it 0% to 50% solar intensity. And then when it gets sunny, there's pretty much like straight into the 100% solar intensity. There isn't a lot between that 50% and 100% marker. Still, it's pretty cool. Along the bottom bottom there, you got also a graph that shows you solar intensity over the course of the day. That's been kind of fun to watch on some of my longer hikes where I was down in the tree canopy in the forest early in the morning. So not great solar intensity. As I went up to above the tree line and into the sun, then you get kind of full intensity. And then again, as I finished up down back in the tree line, you lose that again. So pretty impressive stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and cook into number 3 here because I'm way behind my target timeline for this video right now. And so let's talk about Trendline Popularity Routing. It was something Garmin introduced last year in the Fenix 5 Plus series. And essentially that takes all the heat map data that Garmin gathers from probably about 1 million activities a day, GPS activities they have on Garmin Connect, and it puts it in the watch from a data standpoint. But previously you couldn't actually see that heat map on your watch itself. The data was there, you would route over the top of it, called popularity routing, and that worked great, but now you can actually see it. Now you can toggle a map layer that goes ahead and it shows you the exact trendline popularity routing of your area. And it's cool, but there are definitely some limitations that are becoming super visible here, even in a place like Chamonix that's like just all outdoor people all the time and tons of people wearing GPS watches. Number one is that I'm not seeing a lot of the popularity routing data once I zoom beyond half a mile of zoom level there, which makes it really tough to see beyond just my little area, so I can't really see longer distance. That's something I can probably fix and change the rendering and whatnot. Number two, I'm also noticing that it's divided up based on sport, which makes sense at first, but in the case of up here, I saw a ton of data for running, but oddly not a lot of data for hiking, because people are probably just simply sticking the run GPS mode as opposed to hike. So I kind of just would choose run up here so I can go ahead and see the stuff around me. Still, it's super cool stuff, and I think those are kind of minor tweaks that they can fix over time. Next on the list is PacePro. Now the goal behind this is to effectively replace those paper wristbands that you wore at marathons that would show your splits for every kilometer or mile during the race, but they didn't necessarily account for the terrain very well, and that's what PacePro aims to do. So the way it works is that you can apply a course, or you can not apply a course, but in my case, I've applied a course to it, so it knows the terrain for that, and it knows how to take into account that terrain for running up hills and down. Once you've got that loaded, then you go ahead and decide, do you want a positive split or negative split, which basically means, do you want to get faster over the course of the race or not? And number two, you can choose how aggressive you want to be on hills. And so as you dork with these sliders, you can see the PacePro will shift the different pace splits for your entire race or workout or whatever it may be. And then on training day or race day, whatever it may be, you've got an actual data screen that's sort of like the virtual partner one, where it goes ahead and shows you how you're doing against those splits as well as against the entire race. Pretty cool stuff. It's definitely like taking virtual partner and kicking it up a notch, and it's giving you a lot more control over how you race against something. Just a super quick scenic interruption. If you're enjoying the video, go ahead and mark that like button right now down at the bottom there, or hit the subscribe button. It really helps out the channel as well as the video. With that, on to the next one. Next, we've got a slew of battery related features. I've kind of broken them out because they are different features. Number one is something called power modes. And now what Garmin have done here is they basically looked at Suunto and said, what you did last year in the Suunto 9, that was a really good idea. We're gonna copy it, which is that Suunto introduced these battery modes where you basically would know how much battery time you had from an hour standpoint. So you have, let's say, 20 hours or 40 hours or 50 hours of battery life left on the watch based on the battery that you have right then and there. And you could change the battery modes both prior to the activity as well as during the activity to go ahead and complete your activity. Made a lot of sense. So Garmin took that same thing and they created new battery modes and more or less copied the entire feature. So that segues right into the next one called Power Manager. Now Power Manager allows you to create your own custom profiles, and as you're doing it, it'll actually show you how many hours it'll add for each thing you do. So if you turn off the optical heart rate sensor, it shows you exactly how many hours you're going to gain by doing that. If you turn off sensor connectivity to AMP Plus sensors or Bluetooth smart sensors, it shows you exactly how much time you're going to gain doing that. And he goes this entire list of things. Things like music, for example, that are turned off, that would obviously vary. So they can't give you like a straight answer for that. So it just simply says vary. And now if you were creative enough within this, you could actually get to our next item, which is the battery saver mode. Now the goal behind this is sort of replicating kind of what Casio does on basically creating a mode that will last more or less forever, like 41 days, which is a long time for a Garmin watch. And what it does in that mode, when you enable that, and you can just toggle it through the battery manager there, is it goes ahead and basically turns everything off, and it just simply updates your time screen once per minute. One of the things that most people don't realize is that that second hand on your watch and showing that is a huge battery drain over the course of a longer period of time. Finally, on the battery related train of new features here is Expedition mode. This is something that came to the Garmin Mark Expedition series this past February, but you probably didn't use it because that cost $2,000. But it's here now, and the way it works is it goes ahead and disables everything, kind of like battery saver mode, except GPS. So GPS actually stays on, but it checks in once per hour. The idea behind this is that you can get up to roughly 46 days or some crazy number of days depending on which unit you have. I think it's like 21 days if you have the 6S, all the way up to 46 days if you have the X, and that allows you to get this single GPS plot once per hour if you're going a really long ways and don't really care about anything else except for, I don't really know who's going to use it, to be honest. Like, I think if you're going 46 days, you probably have a battery pack with you, and the other modes, like the other normal GPS modes last up to 120 hours, so that's going to cover almost everyone else. So it's cool, but I'm betting no one ever actually uses it. Next, we've got a quickie, which is the increased number of data fields per page. Simple as that. If you have the 6S or the 6, you get up to 6 data fields now from the previous 4, and if you have the 6X, you get up to 8 data fields from the previous 4. So again, Garmin kind of following what Suunto and others have done here and adding more data fields per data page. Next, we have some tweaks to the size of the units themselves. Now, over the past couple of years, for the most part, the Fenix series have stayed the exact same size. The display has changed a little bit, but they kind of are what they are. Now, that all changes with the Fenix 6 series. Starting off with the display size, they've increased that across the board by decreasing the bezel size, so the actual screen resolution increases as well as the screen size. And then on the thickness of all the units, they've decreased those by varying amounts as well. And then last but not least, on the 6S, which is the smaller one that tends to be more popular with women, including my wife, they've reduced what's called the lug-to-lug distance. They always stuck out a lot, and it looked a little awkward. They reduced that considerably, which should make it a little bit better for people that have small wrists. Next on the list, we've got widget glances. Now, this is one of those things that probably doesn't sound that exciting, but it's so awesome when you start to use it. In the past, Garmin had in the widget roll, which is that thing that you scroll through and you've got widgets like weather and your activities and all that kind of stuff. It's not really designed for during the workout, but just the rest of the day. But you had one page for each widget, and that was fine, but there was a lot of wasted space there. And so with widget glances, they've shrunk that down into these glanceable things that you can go ahead and you can see 3 per page, and you can click on them to get the full widget size. It's awesome. Like, I don't need this huge page for most of these things, like just seeing my heart rate or seeing the altitude or elevation. It works pretty well. This is something that sounds like they're going to open up to the rest of Connect IQ here at the same time, so other developers will be able to go and take advantage of that as well. Next, there's the new map display themes. Now, this is only available on the Pro models that have maps, of course, and what it allows you to do is to change the theme of the map. So in the past, Garmin had their standard issue map, but this allows new map themes. So for example, there is the popularity routing theme, which is how you see the Trendline Popularity data, the heat map data. There is a high contrast theme, there's a dark theme, there's a marine theme, which shows like more marine stuff. There's a ski resort theme. All those things, you just simply toggle the themes however you want, whenever you want, even mid-activity. Speaking of maps, the 6 series now includes ski resort maps as well as golf courses on the device itself. So in the case of ski resorts, there's 2,000 ski resorts, and I checked this one here, and Chamonix is on the list, which is great. In the case of golf courses, there's 41,000 that are preloaded on the device as well. I don't golf, so I really can't. I'm really good at like miniature golf, but not so much the big ball golf, so I can't really help you there. Next on the list, though, is ClimbPro. So back to something that is in my ballpark. Now, ClimbPro was introduced in the past, I think on the Fenix 5 Plus series, and basically what it does is it shows you your climbs automatically if you're loading a course, and it's really cool, and I've been using it all day, every day, on all of my hikes here, because I'm just climbing all day, every day. I love it. It's one of my favorite features. That was in the past. What they've done now, though, is they've taken the coloring that is on the Garmin Edge 530, 830, and 1030 series, where it colors the actual map itself based on the incline, so based on the suck factor, if you will, and that'll be on the wrist itself. Now, unfortunately, that feature won't be there at launch, so if you have it, you're not going to see it on day 0. They're still fine-tuning that a little bit. Next, for those triathletes in the crowd, you now have optical heart rate enabled for swimming. This is something that Garmin has started to do some beta builds on this past summer for the Forerunner 945, and also I think for the Mark Series 2, but now for the Fenix 6 series, if you want to use the optical heart rate on your wrist itself for swimming, you can do that. You can still, of course, use the HRM Tri or HRM swim straps, which Garmin says, and I would agree with, will give you better quality data. So you're gonna have to do some testing and see if it works for you. Now, last but not least is the beast of a list of items that are added to the Fenix 6 series that came within the Forerunner 945 series. If you're asking yourself, are there gonna be any difference between the 945 and the Fenix 6 series? The answer is probably a few, but more or less both should kind of blend together. Again, all those features, I'm putting them on the screen right now because there's so many features that I can't possibly talk through them all. Where I have talked through them all, though, is the full in-depth review linked at the bottom down there. You'll see all of them, and you can find out more than you probably ever wanted to know about everything there. Okay, so there you go, a complete look at the new Fenix 6 series. So what are my kind of concluding thoughts? I'm generally impressed. I think a couple things. One, the solar is intriguing to me. I want to see it in a lower price point like the other devices, but I have no doubt that's going to happen. Garmin spent a lot of money acquiring this technology. They're not just going to put it in a single watch, and they've kind of alluded to that a little bit. So that's cool stuff. I'm seeing the benefits of that in these sunny day hikes and whatnot. Number two, I'm actually impressed with the accuracy. And if those of you have been following me for a while, I have not been super impressed with the Sony chipset accuracy on any of the devices, whether it be Suunto, or Polar, or Garmin, over the past year, as they've all shifted to that. But I'll give them credit. I'm getting really good GPS tracks in some really tough places up here. Some pretty sketchy places that are getting really good GPS tracks. So that's good. With that, thank you for watching. Go ahead and whack that like button on the bottom there, or the subscribe button, in particular because there's a disturbing amount of new sports technology stuff coming in the next 10 days that you do not want to miss out on. Like, seriously, my tracker sheet is concerning for my health right now, but you're gonna enjoy it, I think, I hope. Have a good one.